Hi guys, in this video we will be talking about medieval China and Japan. So we're going to be summarizing the major political, economic, and cultural developments in Tang and Song China and their impact on Eastern Asia, and we will also be summarizing the fundamental ideas and institutions of Eastern civilizations that originated in China. By the time that we are done, you will be able to describe Chinese achievements, and you will also compare medieval Japanese culture to China and Europe. Let's start by talking about the Tang Dynasty, which existed between 618 and 907. During this time, China is going to experience a golden age, that is a period of peace and prosperity, and they're going to expand their empire into the areas where modern-day Korea, Manchuria, and other parts of Central Asia. The Tang government is going to create a census. Through a census, the government conducts population counts in order to track where their citizens live and how many people live in their cities. They also are going to administer civil service exams for government officials. So the Tang are very big on education, and they only want the most educated people to serve in their government. Every adult man was also given a grant of land, so everybody had a place to live and land that they could farm to feed their families with. One of the most famous rulers from the Tang Dynasty is Empress Wu Sitan. She is the only female emperor in Chinese history, and she was a very successful ruler too. Next, we'll talk about the Song Dynasty, which existed between 960 and 1279. During this time, China is going to experience a lot of social and economic progress. They're the first to use paper money, and they're also going to use copper and iron coins to facilitate trade. In the Song Dynasty, you'll see a lot of large towns and cities emerge. This is the most populous and advanced civilization of the world during this time. They're going to have a huge building project on one of their rivers, the Grand Canal, and it's going to connect Beijing, the Yellow, and the Yangtze rivers, and it's used mostly for trade between these two big cities. Both the Tang and Song saw a lot of achievements during the Middle Ages. In technology, the Chinese are going to develop block printing. They also invent the crossbow. They're going to introduce gunpowder, which was initially used for fireworks, and also the abacus, which is this little contraption you see here. You might have had a toy similar to it when you were younger. It's used for counting and doing math. The compass was another achievement from the Chinese. It was a magnetized needle that floated in water, and it was used for navigation. And then in the arts, they are going to create a lot of beautiful porcelains, which are going to be in high demand in the western parts of the world, and painting with black ink on silk paper, and also a lot of important poets and historians emerged from China during the Middle Ages. We've discussed this before, the traditional Confucian beliefs. Women had to be obedient to their fathers, their husbands, and their sons. They could inherit land, and they could get divorced if both parties agreed. The practice of foot binding, which emerged in the ancient times, continued to be practiced during the Middle Ages. This was again a desire to limit the mobility of women, and also it was a sign of class and beauty to have very small feet. China had a huge influence on the neighboring islands of Japan. Japanese culture adopted a lot of traits from the Chinese culture, including their writing, and Chinese music also, and the Chinese also influenced music, art, dance, and cooking in Japan as well. Confucianism made its way to Japan, and it's evident in the fact that loyalty to the family and to their ruler is a very big part of the Japanese culture in the Middle Ages. Buddhism was also taken over to Japan from China, and this is evident in the fact that in Middle Ages Japanese culture, there was a renunciation of selfish desires and of material goods. And Daoism was also adopted by a lot of Japanese. Their love of nature reflects the influence of Daoism in their culture. The Japanese also had a form of feudalism as part of their social and political structure. Similar to what we saw in Europe, you have the emperor at the top, and beneath them you have the shogun and daimyo. They're the ones who run the army. The shogun is the actual ruler of Japan. The emperor is a figurehead, but he has no real power. The shogun is the one who is calling all the shots. Beneath that, you have your samurai. Those are the version of knights in the Japanese culture. They're the professional soldiers, and they're vassals to that shogun. You also have the peasants and artisans. They make up the largest class. They're the ones who work the fields or make goods by hand. And then beneath them, you have the lowest class of merchants. Remember that in Asian culture, merchants are not as highly respected as peasants are. This is because they don't produce anything. They simply make money from selling things that other people make or grow. So again, the shogun is the supreme military governor in Japan, and the emperor is just a political figurehead. They have no political power. The shoguns are the ones who rule the country and command the army. Samurai are the version of knights. They are the professional warriors. They're hired by the daimyo, who are the noble class, the ones who own the land, and their code of honor is called Bushido. I'm going to attach a couple of videos. They're clips from movies that represent Japanese culture. It's pop culture, American pop culture, but they're pretty cool clips. So I'll add them to the website so you can check them out. They're fun to watch. And then that brings us to the journal entry. I want you to think about how Japanese society was similar to China and how it was similar to medieval Europe. When you write your journal, give at least 2 examples of each. If you have any questions, ask me when you get to class, and thank you for watching.